Wishful thinking.
It is an off-putting last name. It's very complicated. Why can't you just be Smith?
Just
Like some people.
Imagine how my wife feels.
Speaking of which, we have Tyler Smith who is moderating for us, so I will give it to you guys.
I've read it. That's right. It is.
Thank you.
All right. How's everybody doing? Doing well?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Awesome.
All right. It's more energy than I was expecting. Okay, so the name of this panel is "What Makes a Film Christian," which is very exciting because it's an inherently academic question, which is so much fun for me. And as I was trying to come up with the questions to ask, I found myself going either extremely specific or really, really, really broad. So we're going to start broad and get specific, all right? I'm going to ask a question. It's going to sound like a joke. It isn't, all right? What is, and it's similar to the title, but it's a little bit different. What is a Christian film?
So,
Thoughts here? Yes.
statement on that.
Just quick to the punch.
Sam was a Bible quizzer, so that was my favorite.
Well,
Jump right up there.
Bible drill.
So two things. I was actually talking about this with some people earlier, and so two kind of poor uses of or descriptions of what we do as Christians in film are the idea of faith-based films and then Christian film. That term. The reason being, all films are faith-based because it doesn't matter whether you're an atheist or anybody who has some level of faith. And so faith-based films, any film produced is a faith-based film. Now when we use it, we're saying Christian faith, right? But all films have that. So, and then the other thing is, when we define Christian film, I think what comes to that side also is the idea that films in some way can be Christian. And the reality is, right, so a question, right, can a rock be a Christian? Like a rock, like a stone on the ground? The answer is no, because it's an inanimate object. Now, Luke 19, 39, 40, I had that. Yeah, I was like, when did I hold this? Yeah, I needed to remember.
Questions beforehand?
Yeah, you guys can just sit these one. We're going to keep this.
Must be Democrat.
But Luke says that the rocks cry out, right? Praising God. And I think that's what we need to look at. Films like, a film can't be Christian, it's an inanimate object, but it can glorify, praise, and direct people towards God. And so, I'm not presenting a different term that we should use, maybe we should just call them movies.
Okay.
Wild picture, right?
All right.
Or films, depending on whether you're in France.
So we've hit on something already, and I will get everybody else's answer in a moment. But that is a very common thing. Our last panelist has arrived. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Sorry, just making sure I got it correct. Something that I hear very often in regards to Christian film, especially living in Los Angeles. People, I would say, for reasons of stigma, they would say like, no, I'm a Christian who makes film.
And this is
I'm not a Christian filmmaker. That's Rich Swingle.
Yeah. He's awesome.
I didn't know. I was looking forward to this panel. I didn't know I was going to be on it. I was taking shots. So sorry.
That's okay. Are you looking forward to it less or more now that you're a part of it?
Oh, more.
Oh, okay.
More.
Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, and so that's a thing you hear a lot is people really distancing themselves from the label Christian filmmaker or Christian film, which is understandable just from a cultural standpoint and what people associate with that as far as quality. But it is something that I find interesting because as time has gone on, I actually consider Christian film, at least what we think of as Christian film, I think that it's as sort of a separate genre, right up there with science fiction or slasher movies. And by that, in that regard, they're just other movies.
But even in that regard, right? So I've got
Oh, he's got, yeah.
But one of the things there is, if you read the book Save the Cat, he argues for there's 8 genres, and so the idea of Christian being a genre, the reality. So one of the questions that comes in right in this panel is that can there be multiple genres within Christian Christian film or faith-based. And the thing is, if we follow,
Subgenre. Yeah.
Some sort of.
yeah, are there
Sure.
subgenres
That's good.
under this? And I'm like, well, what if we just put ourselves in all the genres that everybody else calls us,
Mhm.
but we're giving the message that we're supposed to promote, and not try and label ourselves as this whole different genre or new genre even.
Well, and I would say, and I'll welcome everybody else in a moment, but I would say,
I said
sorry, the people that have their own mics, I think there's a reason for that. How it worked out. These aren't even plugged in. This is Kevin from the show Say Goodnight something. I don't remember the last one, but
They needed a seat to be filled, so they asked you.
But yeah, and that is actually part of what we're going to be discussing here is the idea of sort of, for lack of a better term, ghettoizing Christian film, which is something that I think the audience does itself, like separating it from everything else and saying, no, we're different, we have different motivations, different funding, different content. When in actuality, it's like, well, they're all movies, and we can permeate these other things. That sounds almost conspiratorial, but like we can be a part of that if we want to be. So, so I'm going to throw it to the other panelists, and I'm going to go back to that larger question, which is, what is a Christian film? And it's perfectly okay to disagree with the main attraction here.
Yeah. I disagree. No,
I
I
appreciate that.
I thought it was interesting. The only thing I was going to say before was, well, a Christian film is if a film gets down on its knees and sets Jesus into its heart as its Lord and Savior. But you made a serious point, making the same point, and I think that's great.
I heard that Speed 2 became a Christian. That's very
Yeah, I was really blessed by that. Yeah, cruise control. Yeah. Put on your phone, putting the beaches. Oh man.
No, of
Terrible.
course not. Why would I? Nobody saw that one.
What I was gonna say though, when I was thinking about it, is this sort of thing was very popular. Like that terminology, that verbiage was very popular with Christian music when I was in youth group. There was very much well, I'm a Christian in a band, not a Christian band. I mean, I think every Christian band was saying that at that time, and it was very much that, I think, that desire to distance itself from that label. But I think that it isn't a genre. And I think the reason for that, for me, a genre is definitely, a genre is defined by certain creative decisions made by the creator, not the creator God, but the creator director. And but ultimately, the creator, of course, is guiding. Who knows? I don't know. Let's get into Calvinism, shall we?
Tulip.
If we were going to get into Calvinism, we would have already done it.
Yes.
I would have pulled out a short film, and we would have.
But what's so
Once you
fascinating
get into
is
Calvinism, you never get out of Calvinism.
you had all these.
Give me a tea.
You had all these genres, and then you had Christian that had, I don't know, KJ52 and Third Day and all these different bands that sound nothing alike, but it's all based on the lyrical content. What are they saying in here? To me, Christian is a market. It's like kids film. There's all kinds of kids films, and so a genre to me, like found footage is a good one because it's very easily defined. Found footage is a genre, and if I were to say I don't like that movie because the camera was just all over the place and shaky, well, you don't like the genre of found footage apparently, because that's an aspect, that's an attribute of the genre. Christian doesn't have necessarily an attribute of the genre unless you're saying that, like, a lot of people say Christian film, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't like that because it was cheesy and on the nose and poorly shot, or the dialogue was strange. And they're like, well, it's a Christian film. But is that an attribute of the genre of Christian film? Is that the dialogue is poorly written? Maybe. Then I don't like Christian film if that's a genre, but it's based on the lyrical content. It's the thing that's being said, and to me, it's more based on who it's marketing to, because a lot of decisions are being made based on who it's marketed to, and I don't think that's wrong, but like kids movie, Toy Story I think is fantastic, and it's a kids movie, and I don't know, some other bad kids movie.
Yes. Let it go.
Bad
I
Santa.
think, I think that what we find is that there's good and there's bad, and that can happen in any genre, but that it doesn't need to be bad in order to be considered a Christian
And I
movie.
think this is a unique situation for Christians because when a Buddhist goes and makes a film, we don't go and call it a Buddhist film. And when a Hindu goes and makes a film, we don't call it a Hindu film. Or would it be Hindi? I'm not sure.
Hindi.
No, that's different.
Something like that, you know. We don't do that, but we do, or the label is put on to Christians as this is a Christian film.
But who's
This
putting
is
that
Which I think
this
does
is
speak
the
to the
irony
market.
It
is
has
that
more to do with
that
it.
if it's a Christian film, ironic, and I know I'm saying this, and I know you all know this, I'm saying the obvious, but it's ironic that Christian films are really more for the lost, and the people who are watching Christian films are usually Christians. So it seems like our marketing ability is a little off because we're making films for kind of the wrong market in many times. My personal dumb opinion is I think there's two types of Christian films. There's seed planting films and there's harvest films. I hope that maybe we can get a little later because I think some of our harvest films have gone off track. But for a long time it just seemed like if you weren't saying this particular thing or doing a particular thing in your film, then it could be considered this and it couldn't go to that market. But it seems like the market now, or the audience for what we're doing is all over the place. Because let's face it, we might all be Christians in this room, but we're all at a different place in our walk with Christ, and so our movies should all be reflecting that different level of walk with Christ. I don't know if that.
I was on Alone Yet Not Alone, and one of the producers, Mike Snyder, had that planting and harvesting, but he added one. He added tilling the soil. That some of us are called to do films that are tilling the soil.
There were several years where I honestly felt bad by some folks who also are in the harvest category who are like, wow, you're not really a Christian doing Christian films if you're not, if you don't have this particular scene or you're not. And it's like, well, but I'm doing what I feel that I'm called to do. God has obviously called you to do that, and I think that's great. And I don't want to speak ill of what God has called somebody else to do because that's not my place. Which also means it's not their place to, poo-poo what we're doing. But yeah, that's a good point because there's so many different levels of these films that I don't know, and I admit I'm still struggling as to exactly where I'm at. I'm all over the place on my genres. I'm sorry, my categories, and but I think that's okay because God has given us this different creativity in all these different levels. So I'm sorry.
Chris, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Like everyone said everything I wanted to say. But I mean, what makes a Christian film? Well, the first film I ever made was called Christian. It wasn't quite a Christian film, but I was trying. So I just personally, what I think makes a Christian film is the intention of the person creating it. I think films are reflective of their creators. So if you were making a film to bless somebody in a certain way, whether it's people, whether it's not Christians or Christians, I think that makes it a Christian film. That's kind of very broad, but I think if the intention is to bless somebody in some way.
Because I came late, I didn't say what makes a film Christian. And I'm in the camp that I think was expressed before I got here, that a film cannot become Christian because it has no soul. But
We did talk about this.
I got that impression. And in fact, Christians in theater arts made their name Christians in theater arts because they didn't believe theater could itself be Christian. But, was there...
I'm just noticed a lack of female representation, so I wanted to say something real quick.
Speak out,
Well,
Lord.
it would be, if someone said to us, define Christian sports, you'd go, define Christian banking, define Christian real estate. You'd go, that's stupid. What are you talking about? And I'm a Christian who does this.
Though I will say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, but on that notion, we try to define and explain and represent properly, intricately, something that in no other, stop it, this is my child,
Christian
but
parents.
we try we try to define it so intricately when we couldn't and wouldn't ever even pose that question to most any other
true.
That's
job
right.
or career choice in the entire United States. And we wonder, why do we as Christians have a hard time defining?
However,
Amen.
pardon me, sports are not expressive. A football player, because they have a statement to make with what they are doing. They might use it as a platform, but the thing itself is a different entity. Film and arts is meant to, I'm expressing something that is personal to me. It could be a belief, it could be experience, whatever it is. And so I do think that intentionality plays a big role. And so, but going back to something that I said yesterday on the panel, I do think that every area of the world can, in its own way, be defined as Christian based on how a person conducts themselves and the standard that they hold themselves to. Along those lines, speaking of standards, the question then becomes, within the world of Christian film, which is not the point of this panel, but within the world of Christian film, they focus so much on intentionality that they forget the concept of standard. Whereas if you were to talk to a Christian banker, or a banker who identifies as Christian, they would say that yeah, like, I incorporate my faith into this by doing it the best of people who work within the Christian film industry. I think are so focused on intentionality, which is not a problem, but I think they forget that there's this other expressive element that is a big part of it. Maybe even a bigger part of it than other things.
Which there's probably an aspect there also of being able to say that you can have a Christian film set in the sense that like prime leadership that. The